The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Hail Varsity back with you on a Tuesday. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, 489-1240, 489-1240, number to get in, 800-825-5865, where you hear us across the Hail Varsity Radio Network and also stream the show. You're invited to do so. Hail Varsity YouTube channel, and also the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Different platforms. You can catch us also streaming the show. Of course, Omaha and ESPN AM 590, KFOR Facebook and Twitter, and Central Nebraska Superstation ESPN News Talk 900. No Husker baseball tonight. A little bit too cold. Man, it is a bit chilly outside, as Clark would say, a bit nipply outdoors. But hey, the Husker baseball team practicing. What's up?
You can't see the line.
No, can you, Russ? You can't see the line. Nope. Exactly. So Husker baseball practicing in the Hawk Center. Got a chance to see them warming up as it was the part one and part two Troy Dannen press conference day. We'll give our thoughts and impressions on him just in the big podium, and then the more intimate, dare I say, smaller club scene in the Hawks Center. So that was good. We'll hear from new athletic director Troy Dannen in a little bit. Joba Chamberlain with us in 15 minutes. Get his take on Husker baseball, how things are rolling for Will Bolton Company. Too bad they don't get K-State tonight, but maybe another time. In hour two, Michael Bruntz with Husker 24/7 Sports. Bruntsy going to join us. Saw him at the presser, his thoughts, and plenty to move forward with. NFL news, of course, college basketball alive and well. And guys, mentioned more than once by new athletic director Troy Dannen, the fact when you have good coaches and you have good people, you want to retain them, right? That seems easier said than done. The last 5 years with Nebraska. And you look at all the attrition that has been a reality, not just with Nebraska, but with different rosters across the Big Ten, across the SEC, across college football, basketball, baseball. It's a nomadic sport right now with NIL and opportunities, and bigger universities are getting a crack at guys who play 2 or 3 years at a smaller university, and then they get their 1 year at a Nebraska or a Creighton or pick your school. It's very interesting to hear Dannen's take, and it's a real way of life right now on NIL. That was a focal point. That's something I circled. That's something I highlighted, and he's going to play ball because that's the new set of rules. You have to live by. Nebraska's got an incredible collective that is there for the student athletes, and he is going to be a partner. That's my biggest takeaway with Dannen right now is the guy can talk. The guy is very likable. He's somebody that I think you want to work with. And how did he get his voice heard at Tulane or at Washington? You have a little better chance of getting your voice heard at Washington because of where you were in the college football landscape and what they were doing. They played for a national championship. But how'd you get your name heard at Tulane? Impeccable academic reputation at Tulane. Hard as hell to get into Tulane. Really, really high-level school, right? And he is somebody that would listen, would learn. And, again, this is my 2 cents, my, 45 minutes removed from getting a chance to hear him for the first time in front of me. And he's a guy that is all about listening, learning, and then how am I going to raise an objection? How am I going to bring a point in? I think he can be a guy that's very skilled in in knowing how to talk to somebody that may have a different take, or maybe work his want or need on behalf of Nebraska or the Big Ten now into, at least it's a discussion point. I think he has a soft touch, for lack of a better term, and I think that's something that hasn't always been the case at Nebraska, and I think there's a persistence with him, not as a wear out, but a persistence to have good timing, I guess is the best way to put it. You can come back at somebody if you've been rejected and maybe find a better time or help them see your point of view. I think you've got a real strong advocate for Nebraska moving forward in those committee rooms as the landscape changes. I think you've got a real strong advocate right now that this guy wants to come in. He put it best, man. He said he's the snowplow. I kind of liken it to your old Nebraska fullback, right? Your Nebraska fullback would go annihilate a linebacker, maybe kill a safety too, and your I-back would go score the touchdown. Meanwhile, a Makovica or a Franklin or a Roger Craig or a Rathman or go down the list of great Nebraska fullbacks, and I've left some out, I'm sure, they would just like to see the other guy bleed. They just KO'd. He likes to get things out of the way, and if he can be a partner, his whole mission, at least the last 2 hours, how can I help and how can I make Nebraska better? That's what he wants to do. That seems to be his mission here. And
my number one takeaway from today, I mean, you nailed it, Schmidt. You hit all the points. But just from a feel point of view, just from that, I guess you'd call it on the football field the eye test. It doesn't come down to measurables, like just the eye test. What I heard today, the vibe I got from a guy was a guy that really felt like he was truly excited to be in the position that he is in. You don't always get that feel from people in positions of leadership.
Is this the job or another job?
I'll leave it at that. I think people can read in between the lines with what I mean there in terms of excitement.
What did you just say, Elijah?
I just think this is a guy that is very excited. He laid out how, growing up in Iowa, it was like Nebraska was the gold standard. Nebraska was where you wanted to go. Nebraska was where you wanted to go win a national championship under Tom Osborne. He didn't get that chance, but it strikes me as a guy that for his entire life has followed Nebraska and has had a dream of being at Nebraska, and now he's here. Like, did he not feel like the guy that maybe people at home can relate to this? That guy on a 7:30 a.m. Monday morning meeting that you're half awake, you don't want to be at work, and there's that one bubbly guy that is just absolutely bringing some life.
The guy that's in at 6:30 on a Monday making the coffee.
Yeah.
The guy that annoys you a little bit for the first 5 minutes of the meeting, but then by the end of the meeting, you're like, you know what?
I'm glad I work with the guy.
The energy's a little contagious. I'm glad I work with the guy. That is the complete feel I get off of Dannen. Just almost a kid in a candy store type feel of a guy that's really excited to be here and a guy that's willing to put in the work because he knows how much this means.
I feel like the timeline's a little bit weird, just like of when he got here, because he gets hired and then immediately his first assignment, for lack of a better term, is, well, he's watching our basketball team play down in Memphis, and then he's checking out on the team in Corvallis, and now he's back, and now he's doing the introductory press conference. It's just kind of been like wild to see him throw himself into everything that was going on, because this was one of the bigger weeks in Nebraska athletics really probably in a long time, just news-wise and success-wise, and then you get thrown into it, and you throw yourself into it. I think that's a really good quality. And as Elijah mentioned, too, just seemed really excited, really enthusiastic, really passionate. And I know every athletic director would be to take a job like this, but the fact that, you're getting that, even though he's been the Nebraska athletic director for a week, it's not the same as the first day, but you can just kind of feel that excitement is there. There's a lot of opportunity to grow as a department as a whole, whether that's leadership-wise, whether that's personnel-wise, whether that's success-wise on the field or on the court or wherever it may be. He knows that there's a lot to be done here, and he knows that there's a lot that can be done here. It's not that it's an unfathomable future. He knows that the path is there. They just have to pave it.
And
he touched on relationships.
He did. One thing I would do just to finish this point about the excitement, 3-putt Mitch chimes in and wants to know, are you sure that Dannen isn't just here for the family? I think that's obviously a part of it, just the same as the salary is the part of it, but this does not strike me as a guy that saw dollar signs flashing in his eyes last week and went, oh, they're willing to double my salary. I got to take that job. This is not a guy that is like here for the financials. You don't get that feel at all. And that's one of the concerns you can have when you have a place like Nebraska where, you know what, Nebraska is going to take care of you. Nebraska has the financial ability to take care of their football coach and their athletic director and their men's basketball coach. This does not strike me among first impressions today of a guy that is like, oh, hell yes, they're paying me $1.6 million. This is the best opportunity ever. It's the guy that strikes me as I get to go be the athletic director at an esteemed university such as Nebraska. This is the best job ever.
The end still resonates and matters to him because he grew up seeing it. That's as big a part of this as anything. To the other comment, too, from Three Putt Mitch about family. And, yeah, family will feel really comfortable in the Midwest opposed to New Orleans in Tulane or in Seattle. I mean, you are not far from home. But, yeah, first impressions, he came here and he's excited about basketball. He knew of Amy Williams. He said he tried to hire her, was going to try and hire her. He knew Fred from way back. So that's comfort, and he knows how quality they are. He mentioned a couple of times just to the reality, if you have good people, your job's to retain them. And it sounds like there was some sniffs for Fred and for Amy because you had a void right there. Your AD takes off. You've got an interim president. How quickly can Nebraska make sure you lock up two really talented coaches that just got you the NCAA tournament? Well, you had the interim do it. Good. Just leave no doubt. Take care of business. The other part of this, too, is above all, because of his relationship with Pat Kraft, working on committees and being in the AC with Rule, there's an admiration there and a high respect level, and he's here because of Rule. He's here because of Rule. He believes Rule's going to get Nebraska flipped. He thinks Nebraska is going to win a lot of ball games. They're going to be a playoff contender. All these things, and he wants to be a part of it. He is to help, not hinder. And I go back to that fullback example. He is going to try and take out the linebacker, so to speak, clear the obstacles. Just tell me what help you need. And that's not always the case in this world of academics and athletics. You have egos. You have me. What kind of legacy can I or imprint can I leave? What kind of credit can I receive? And that's common. That's commonplace when it comes to etching out your little piece versus are you going to be selfless and the success and payoff is in seeing Nebraska win across the board. Let's hear from Athletic Director Dannen here real quick. Cut 8 goals at Nebraska. His thoughts from the bigger press conference earlier today.
Now, I have a lot of goals, and I'm not going to tell you all of them, but I'm going to tell you I have one expectation that I will be unyielding upon, and that is this. Nebraska Cornhusker athletics will be the standard by which everyone else will measure themselves. And it doesn't matter what job we have in the department. My staff will hear me say that. It doesn't matter. If you sell tickets, you sell tickets in a way that everybody that sells tickets in the country should look and say, that's how you sell tickets. If you teach strength, then you're going to do it in such a way that everybody can say, this is how strength should be taught. This is how academic support should be done. This is how this is how we should coach, but we will set the standard in everything we do. Ultimately, though, I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't need to talk to the coaches. I don't need to talk to Coach Osborne. Ultimately, I know this. We're going to win. We're going to win, and we're going to win, and we're going to win Big Ten championships, and we're going to win national championships, and we are going to win academically, and we are going to win socially, and we are going to win with character, and we are going to win with integrity. And at the end of the day, the greatest win of all that we will have here is our student athletes will walk out of here, and they will win for the next 40 years of their life because of the experience they get at the University of Nebraska.
So, and this is a little different than a Frost or even the Moose. Off the cuff saying, you better be careful, get us now, you better adjust to us, you better watch out, Ohio State shaking. Those comments right now, while great for the fan base at the time, when it came time for Ohio State on 4th and 1, Joe Burrow came in to not kneel on the ball but throw a touchdown pass to make sure you win by 42 instead of 35, right? Big Ten has long memories. This isn't a call-out or a shout-out against other league opponents. This is a guy who grew up watching Nebraska that is confident in his abilities in an athletic department, seeing what is in front of him from a coaching and talent and player standpoint and a financial backing stability standpoint. And he's just saying, dude, I see this, I believe it, and I think we're going to win.
Well, it's not empty promises. It's a guy just laying out, similar to what we've heard from Matt Rule, the standard.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not hear the parallels between Matt Rule and the athletic director and Troy Dannen in that statement, laying out this is what the standard is going to be while I am the athletic director? That is not just for this wing of the athletic department. That is not just for this wing. It's not just for football.
It's not, I hope we win.
That's not. This is the standard across the athletic department while I'm in charge, is that we will be leading college athletics in terms of what people expect. That's what that is to me.
Let's get our starting five real quick. Brandon is in. NU Grandpa checks in. Jeff is here. Black Hills Brennan. Crew makes the starting five. Walter says run the damn ball. 3-putt Mitch or 3-putt Mish. Michigan is 6. Patrick, what's up, Patrick? Tuck, I'm back to embrace the suck for another day.
Thank you, Tuck.
NASCAR Eric also says hi. Joba Chamberlain next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Tuesday edition. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. We welcome in two-time World Series champ, standout Husker, Joba Chamberlain, here to talk some baseball and beyond. Joba, how we doing? Thanks for a few minutes, man.
You got it. Just trying to stay warm. I mean, everybody's getting canceled right now, so hopefully it looks like at the end of the week we're going to warm up, so hopefully we can get some games in.
That'll be big, and, K-State, Nebraska is supposed to be tonight. Nebraska's sitting in prime RPI position. Another chance to add to that tonight down in Manhattan, but canceled due to the forecast, cold temperatures. What's the coldest you've ever been, and where?
I mean, we played Friday here. It was pretty cold. I mean, coldest as a parent or coldest as a player?
Brother, we all have them Yeti cups, so we can insulate. Travel ball's travel ball. That being said, as a player, is there a game you started where you just couldn't get warm?
I like pitching in the cold because you can throw in and the hitters don't like it.
That's a competitor right there.
So I don't mind it. I've played in snow before. I think my first year, either in Detroit or Cleveland, we started in the AL Central, and I think our first 10 games, we didn't play a game over like 40, 42 degrees. Sure. So you get in the Central at the beginning of April, you catch some cold ones. There's been I can't name them just because there's been a bunch, but I've been snowed out on opening day when I was in Detroit. Been in a World Series game where it was snowing, but yeah, there's some cold ones that I think it's not as bad when you're playing, but when you're sitting in the stands, I mean, there's only so much you can do in so many layers. I'm over there doing calisthenics like I'm trying to go in to pitch.
Well, would you rather play in the brutally cold or the brutally hot?
Cold.
Really?
Yeah, when it's hot, like sweating
Miserable.
and like I was never a big change your jersey guy, which a lot of people are. And it's so hard, like with sweat dripping on your hand and just, I mean, now they're always looking at foreign substances.
Spider tack.
Yeah. So, and rosin is on the thing. So I always would put rosin on both wrists because it stops the sweat from getting down, and sweat and rosin turns into sticky. So you got to kind of like find that balance, I guess. So, I would much rather pitch in cold because, it's out of the bullpen. It's easy. You get 3 outs and do that as a starter. And Carter and I were talking about that at lunch today. It's different when you're in the field of trying to stay warm and make sure when you get the ball that you actually feel it. There was a couple times last year I remember Carter was just like, Dad, I literally couldn't feel the ball when I got it. And so I can only imagine. I mean, it's different when you're just coming in relief to get some outs, but when you're out there on the field, it's definitely a different animal.
I love the brief pitching advice there from Joba. Like, rosin's on the list. You can use rosin, and if you get sweaty, it gets all sticky. Just to let you know. I like how Joba just threw that in there.
I'm not trying to out a family member, but I'm sure there's 7 gallons of pine tar in someone's glove in the garage.
Just depends on if you can find it or not.
That's right.
Can't blame him for trying.
It didn't matter. Joba Chamberlain's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Joba, your take. I mean, Nebraska is on a roll. They are winning close games. They're blowing out teams. They are doing all the things right. Pitching's coming around. The offense has been what it needs to be, and now they get to get set for Big Ten play. And, as we touched on the Triple Play podcast not long ago, it's kind of that top 4, and you need to position yourself and be part of that inner circle of 3, we feel like, here for the Big Ten. And Nebraska's done their work already with RPI early on. But is this sustainable for this team when you look at their body of work to this point?
I think so. I mean, obviously, if you go back and you look at kind of, what we talk about in the pitching depth and the things that we've kind of focused on, in these conversations and on the Triple Play pod is, our starters are doing our job. They're doing those things. And we obviously, when we talked about early in the year is seeing what and who is going to separate themselves. And obviously we've seen what Sears has done and we've found our Friday guy. And that's my opinion. I could be mistaken, but I don't know what you guys have seen, but from what I've seen and, obviously getting the benefit of what Will can do on both sides, Will Walsh, and being able to do that. I think there's still some bullpen stuff that we need to, obviously fix. But, I was really looking forward to this game today just because, it's very, very favorable matchup and us being on the cusp of being in the top 25, K-State being there, us being 9-3 in less than 3-run games, them being 7-3 in that same category. And, just being on win streaks and winning a lot of games in a row and us winning the 16 out of 19, it's nice to continue that role. And I think that's what's important about midweek games. And so, I was kind of bummed to see that this one was going to get canceled because I think it was a really good midweek test for us. But, hitting, 300 as a team, I think it's 299. No, right at 300. Yeah. And, I would like to, see consistency throughout, and we've starting to see that. And on the pitching side, the strikeout to walk ratio like to be 3-1. It's not quite there yet, but you have a sub-4 ERA and you're getting some guys to step up. And as we've touched on before, I think it's such a balanced team on both aspects, and we've only committed 16 errors in 23 games, and that's something that we wanted to tie up and get better at. And so I think the balance of this team, and we've had some games that have been close that we haven't won, but it's also put us in a position where we know we can win those close games, and when we see our record in that. And I think the balance is here. I really would like more consistency from the back end. And obviously you have guys that have stepped up in different roles and seeing what they can do. So I think with everything that we've done so far, it has been fantastic. And where we sit is we hold it in the palm of our hand. We just got to continue to execute and get started here with Big Ten play and do the things that we've been successful. And, hopefully once we get into it, we've got some guys that step up and solidify their roles in the bullpen.
Joba, what's your thoughts on the level of opposition that Nebraska's faced this year? That was one of the things I was looking forward to today, is getting yourself one final test against a bona fide top 25 team to kind of let the team know where they are as they head into the Big Ten slate. Also gets you another potential skin on your belt that you can use in postseason whenever you're arguing maybe to host a regional, maybe to get into a regional, whatever it may be. What's your take on that, the level of opposition Nebraska's faced this year? Do you think it's solid, or do you have concerns there? Because, let's be honest, the Big Ten isn't going to up that level of competition Nebraska's played until you get to the end of the year and you play a team like Iowa.
I think it's been what we're going to be challenged with. We're going to have the games of certain teams that we faced, and then we have the Iowas and the teams that we faced early in the year. And then that's, to your point, Elijah, is like this would have been a really good mark going into it. And obviously, like you said, another notch on the belt for points and put us in a good situation and kind of see where we're at after we've gone through this and now starting into the Big Ten. But I think of what we played early and kind of what we saw out of them early before, we've got into 20-plus games. I think what it leads up to is very, very similar to what we're going to see. And I don't think anything's going to take us, by surprise with the teams that we face. Like we said, it's you got to win the series, and we've done a pretty good job of doing that. And I think if that maintains the focus and, we pick some pieces together and just not try and do too much and don't overlook certain teams and go out and do what we've done. I mean, obviously we haven't tried to do too much. There's been some guys that have been put into great situations and they've succeeded. And there's been some that have kind of faltered, but they've been in those situations. And I think from that perspective, it's going to help us in the long run with these close games and, getting some of these kids in here and putting them in different roles and seeing what they can do. I think with the teams that we played and the teams that were going to come up, I think it's a balanced type of contest. And, you've had the ranked teams, you've had the teams that you should have blown out, and we have. And, there's been a couple close ones, but that's going to happen. That's baseball. That's just the way it goes. So I think in all, I think it's been a very good dynamic of good, bad, and different with what we're going to face coming into the Big Ten.
Joba Chamberlain is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. A couple minutes here. Wanting to go back to the bullpen, there's been some good things, and then there's been some things that raise a little bit of a concern. What do you think is the best thing you've seen from that group, and then the thing that raises your eyebrow the most?
They're not giving in. They're competing. Obviously, some of the numbers aren't great. I think a concerning factor is the walks out of the bullpen. That's a huge part of it. And, you're coming in to get outs and to give them free runners. That's a big concern on the aspect of what I see. I think what concerns me the most is the consistency factor, and where they'll go out and boom, here we go. And then next thing you know, they walk 4 and, everything's out of hand. So I think the consistency factor of it, we're getting, decent innings out of some of these guys. And I would just like to see the consistency and the walk margins go down, because, our stars have done a great job, but, it's just sometimes when you go into the pen and you have that hesitancy and those things. But I think we have the arms to do it. I don't think it's lack of capability. I think it's just, getting in, throwing strikes, challenging. Obviously, we've shown our defense can play defense, and we've proven it. And that's, sometimes that's when they start walking people is when errors happen, because you get on your heels and you're not going boom. It's like, hey, as I stopped being stupid and stubborn as I got older, I'm like, I don't want to have 5 pitch at bats. I want you to swing the first, second pitch so my guys are ready to go. I can get out, make my money, and go throw some seeds in and call it a day. And, and I try to keep it simple, stupid. And the fact is like, hey, early count contact. Like if strikeouts, if they come, they come. But at the same time, I would rather get in and out and pass the torch and have that where it's like, ooh, I seen what this guy did. I want to do the same thing, and just create that and the momentum and everything that you do. And it's contagious. It is. And I think it's just once we start having that in the bullpen, I think everything will kind of fall into place.
Joba, I need you to hang on the other side of this break, if that's cool, for a couple of minutes. Want to get your take on Shohei, and I don't want to short it, so hang tight with us. Joba Chamberlain, 2-time World Series champ, Husker legend, he's with us here talking some baseball on the doorstep of opening day. We'll have more thoughts here on Nebraska Athletic Director Troy Dannen, his presser today. Great to be with you on a Tuesday. Hail Varsity, catch us on the YouTube channel, Hail Varsity YouTube, and we're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Joba Chamberlain, 2-time World Series champ, Husker standout, with us here on Hail Varsity as we talk Husker baseball, and we'll transition to some MLB. Joba, reaction to Shohei Ohtani and his session with the media yesterday, your reaction to his longtime dude and interpreter getting whacked, and the theories or reality surrounding this gambling scandal.
I mean, it's something new that comes out all the time. You try to wait till you get all the details.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned this being in the New York media and now kind of being on the other side of it, I guess. It's interesting how, stories change, and these guys on Twitter somehow know stuff that other people don't know. And, I still have some obviously friends and people that are in the clubhouse and have access, and it's kind of all over the place. I really don't have any opinion on it because you don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can make it what it is and based upon what you read, but you really don't know. He obviously came out and made, his comments and said that he had no idea. But you know how this world works and everything that happens now. They're gonna if he's lying, somebody's gonna find something.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna dig something up, or they're gonna create something, and it's just gonna happen, And it's hard because he is in a huge market as well. I mean, it is LA. It's obviously not the biggest baseball market, but it is a social media darling market. We could put it that way in the things that they try to create and do. I think you haven't heard the last of it. I think it's probably going to go on for a long time. How long that is, I have no idea. Is there an end to it? I don't know, because is there an end to Pete Rose? And that's obviously kind of the contrast that it's gone back and forth with. And, do you hold it, or you're still investigating and you still do this, and it's how deep is it getting involved, and who is getting involved, and how deep are they going to delve into it? It's just
how much do you want to dive in? How much do you want to dive into your face of baseball?
To your golden boy.
and that's part of it, and that's the nature of the beast and what it is. It's a gambling thing. He doesn't really care about 4.5 million, if you're being honest.
Exactly. That's what the mother of all Twitter posts by that 70s Sports Twitter handle had a picture of Pete Rose, kind of looking incredulous, saying, "Only 4.5 million?"
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where if you look at it as a whole, was it really that bad? Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. Get it? Like I will.
Pete says he'd be in the Hall of Fame if he would have had an interpreter. That was him 2 days ago.
Yeah, he said, he goes, well, I was in the 70s and 80s. I had an interpreter.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I mean, you had an interpreter. It just probably wasn't the interpreter that this was.
So. Yeah.
Hey, and I'll say this about Pete Rose. If you have Hall of Fame numbers while point shaving, I think that's an added mark to how great you were.
Pete wanted to win in every and anything. Just ask him.
Well, Joba, let me get your thoughts on this, and we'll get you out on this. To your knowledge, how prevalent is sports gambling among professional athletes? I'm not asking you to put anybody on blast here, but is it
like not baseball, but are you betting? I mean, are guys betting football, hockey, basketball?
Is that even a question?
Well, it is, because we've not been in the clubhouse, clearly.
I mean, you're taking the most competitive people in the entire planet. Like, you don't want to get beat to the field. Like, there's the stupidest things that, like, we don't want to get beat at. Like, yes, it happens. It's not only athletes. It's obviously thrown out and in proportion, obviously, because of their platform. But every single one, because I'm a normal person now. I don't think normal's a word, but I am not a baseball player anymore. Like, yes, I gamble my face off. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm playing Keno or if, like, your March Madness is going on. It's $5, $10. I'm not talking millions, but it's like, it's just, it's part of the sports. It's amazing how much it's grown in how bad gambling was so frowned upon. But now every other commercial is a gambling site. Mm-hmm. And they're making all this money based upon something that was such a taboo and you can't bet and you can't do this. It's such a bad deal. And now every other commercial with famous people and get $50 at it if you sign up for this and do that. Like, it's thrown in your face so much where it's just, now it's second nature. It's like, or you see a buddy, like, how many times have we been sitting there and be like, hey, I like this team, you like this team. Hey, round of drinks are $20.
Sure.
Like, I mean, there's forms of it in every way. And it happens everywhere. I mean, office pools, squares. I mean, you think
How's
about
your bracket?
I got 11 out of 16, but it was a battle. It was a battle getting there. It was a battle. But yeah, it happens everywhere. It'll be interesting. They got good news. He played catch today, so I guess if you want to look at the baseball side of it, he played catch.
He
So.
had the over or the under on 0.5 drops by himself, from what I was told.
That's so wrong.
I'm kidding.
NU Grandpa jumps into the stream, wants to shout out Joba. Joba, my youngest, used to brag to his class that his biggest claim to fame was facing you 4 times in a game and striking out all 4. Legion game, Northeast versus Grand Island. I don't know who NU Grandpa's son is, but that's his shout out.
And he's not the only one, so tell him don't feel bad.
There's a reason Joba wasn't a DH, I think is what Joba's saying.
Well, I don't know if I'm reading this as Joba was on the hill and he struck out. Grandpa's kid, or the other way around?
It's got to be striking out. Your biggest claim to fame can't be getting struck out.
Well, I once
by
faced Joba Chamberlain, and I swung out of my heels, and I couldn't catch his fastball. I don't know.
I have a kid, when we played Manhattan in the regional my junior year, I gave up 2 solo homers. We lost 2-1, and a year later I'm in the big leagues, and I ran into this kid at a signing, and literally I'll get a message from him every once in a while, and he'd be like, remember that time I took you deep?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It happens. It definitely happens on the other side of the fence.
To let you know about it. Jeez.
Yeah.
You send back a picture of the World
time,
Series ring or what?
Yeah, right.
And it was on
Every
the
time
middle.
you
It was on the middle finger.
Yeah.
Joba, we'll talk soon, bud. Thanks for jumping on and talking some ball with us.
You got it anytime, fellas.
Appreciate you. There he is, Joba Chamberlain. Catch the podcast. Elijah and I lucky enough to be a part of that with Joba. Triple Play podcast with Herd Sports. We'll have one cranked out this week as opening day is here, and a little bit of breathing room between Nebraska baseball. They head to Northwestern, but good insight, good perspective as always from Joba. Miss this or just catch part of it, please check the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Plays, where you can download today's show. Of course, you can download Spotify and Google Play and iTunes also with the Triple Play Pod. Find and follow that on Twitter at the Trip Play. And it's also posted on YouTube, and we re-air it on the Herd Twitter handle as well. We'll wind down this first hour. Some more thoughts next hour from Troy Dannen as Nebraska's new AD introduced. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, good stuff from the folks in the stream reacting to Joba Chamberlain. Good to hear from Joba. Moonbot7 says Joba takes his golf way serious. Joba's pretty good at golf from what I hear. Good for him. You also have more comments from Brandon. Brandon says, love me some Joba time. We'll get Joba back on the show, of course, and check the pod out. We encourage you to do that. We'll have more thoughts from Troy Dannen and his presser today. And let's sneak in one more comment from the new athletic director and his vision, right? Did Nebraska hire a guy that can see around the corner the next 5+ years? And Dannen talked about the next 5 years.
The relationship our student athletes have with the university is going to continue to change and evolve. We can speculate what it looks like, but know this. If you think the last 5 years in college athletics have been wild, the next 5 years are going to put it to shame. There's a lot happening, and I don't think any of us know exactly what's going to happen. Nebraska, though, remember this, Nebraska became one of the greatest brands in college sports for one reason, because we won. And you know how we won? We won because in '69, Devaney hired a strength coach when nobody knew strength coaches were ever going to be important. It's because we took initiatives with our student athletes time and time again to elevate them and put them in a position to succeed. Our student athletes, this is a great place. We do things for them that nobody else is doing. We are a national leader. But today, it's more than strength. It's more than nutrition. It's more than even the degree. It's more than facilities. It's more than giving a laptop when they come. It's more than, hey, we're going to prepare you for success throughout your life. Success now is about innovation in NIL. It's innovation in how we embrace the role of the student athlete inside of our athletic department. Success is about our collective. You're going to see me wearing 1890 stuff as much as I wear Nebraska stuff because it's about this. Recruitment and retention of our student athletes, number one.
You can fight it or you can embrace it. You certainly have to coexist with it because as you get to the point of revenue sharing with your student athletes, and part of that is not only going to be, okay, do you get the right dude in the door, your high-profile quarterback, your top left tackle, your beast at 3 technique, your edge rusher that breathes fire, your hybrid linebacker / safety that can cover a tight end, that is going to cost you. And it's going to cost you to keep them. And it's going to cost you to keep your power forward or your point forward. It's going to cost you to keep your top-end volleyball player. And you can scream about it, that it's not how it's supposed to be or how it used to be. Well, it is. That's what it is now. And Nebraska is in good position with their collective to take care of and go after the best and the brightest. And your job as a coach is to identify that kind of dog personality. The NIL gravy is just that, the gravy. They want to come in and win and get to the next level and graduate and do all those things. But what's their motivation? Is it money or is it the ability to be great and then, make some money on top of it? We'll check in with Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7 next.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. We welcome in Mr. Michael Bruntz with Husker 24/7 Sports at Michael Bruntz on Twitters, where you follow him. Busy day, Bruntsy. Thanks for giving us a few minutes. How we doing?
Not bad. You go yourself?
We're good. We are good, and I think you beat me to the car after the Dannen presser. You sprinted, and Bruntsy still has that 4:5:40 time. But what did you think? Let's just start off with the news of the day, the pressers of the day, and what's your initial takeaway from Nebraska's new man in the big chair?
Yeah, I'm a long strider, first of all, not 4.5. But no, it was good. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we've done a lot of these, right? Like we've done a lot of the AD.
What were my words when I walked in the door?
What were they? I don't know.
5-year moratorium.
Ah, yes, you did. That was
Sorry,
right away.
I interrupted you, Bruntz. You forgive me, but 5-year moratorium.
Good. So we've been through this. What struck me, and I mean, I kind of thought this, but it didn't really hit me until we were sitting there. But he's coming into this job in a very different place than where a lot of his predecessors have come into it, right? Like in the past, the AD's been fired. Somebody's coming in. They have to take a very fine-tooth look at the football program and where things are at. And it feels to me like, that there's going to be a little bit of time to kind of ease into things in some ways. Like you've got the football program, I think, in a good spot. You just extended the men's and women's basketball coaches. Volleyball is a machine. So most of your big sports are kind of comfortable and taken care of. And, I think, that allows Troy Dannen a little bit of time to kind of get a lay of the land, to build some trust with people and kind of tackle some of the bigger things. I mean, the stadium project is going to be a big question mark that he's going to have to sort through. But there's not this just immediate need to have to make a decision about the football program. And I think there's a lot of value in that for him and coming into this job. I mean, you don't want to say it's turnkey, because I don't know that, a lot of jobs right now in college athletics are with the way things are changing. But I think it's a good time to be coming to Nebraska to sit in that chair.
It's Michael Bruntz with us, your sneaky athlete, long strider, as he joins Hail Varsity Radio. And Michael, whenever you think about what we learned today, I guess that is my question to you. What did you learn today about Troy Dannen?
The piece about his relationship with Matt Rule, I think, was important. I mean, I think he'd kind of talked about that a little bit, and it kind of been out there a bit from what he said in Memphis, kind of about their prior relationship. But I mean, I think the fact that he basically said to Matt Rule, "Are you okay with me?" I mean, I think that stood out to me. Making sure that you get that relationship right, I think, is an important one for whatever the direction holds for Nebraska. His kind of approach, I think, to how you navigate the Big Ten and kind of advocate for Nebraska, I thought was a really important answer, because, I think sometimes Nebraska maybe hasn't dealt with the Big Ten in a way that was the most productive. And I think kind of having that limited experience that he had from Washington and, those conversations at the Big Ten table, I think those are important. And he's a guy that's been around college athletics and administration for a long time. He has a lot of connections. I think that helps. So those are kind of my takeaways. I mean, I think he's going to be open to the NIL conversations. I think he, like Trev Alberts, kind of sees where things are headed in college athletics, and you have to kind of be on the forefront of that. So I liked what I heard. I mean, I think, like everything, though, whenever you are kind of judging AD hires, you never really know until you're 2-3 years down the road with kind of how things are going.
After everything that happened with the departure of Trev and just the amount of change at the top in leadership, do you think that Troy took a step forward with Husker fans of ensuring them stability and making sure that he can gain their trust in a fairly quickly manner?
We'll see. I mean, I think the fact that he's from the Midwest, I think that helps. I think he gets Nebraska. Obviously he talked a lot about his appreciation for the program in the 90s, which, I mean, you got to kind of check that box, I think, whenever you're coming in to this job. But I think he can, and I think he kind of avoided, smartly talking about some of the things that would be potential potholes with that stuff. I mean, I think it's really important for him to have a really good handle on that Memorial Stadium situation before he says anything publicly about what they're going to do, what he thinks about things, because I think that's going to be one of the big decisions that he's going to have to make pretty early on is, are you going to press forward with that? Are you going to dial it back? Does it look different? I think that that's going to be an important one. But like I said, I mean, I think he has some time to kind of, get to know who he needs to. I think he's going to have an opportunity to earn that trust. And I think a lot of times if you're sitting in the athletic director chair, so much of what you're judged on is what you do, how you act, not necessarily what you say. So, I think Nebraska fans will probably be watching that pretty closely over the next 6 months here to see how that goes.
Michael Bruntz with us, Huskers 24/7 Sports at Michael Bruntz. On Twitter is where you follow him. You read him, of course. Great coverage, him and Schaaf and Brian Christopherson as well. And we'll wind down the AD talk and get into some spring football and hoops post-mortem in just a moment, Bruntzy. But as you look at where Nebraska's at, I came away with a guy that wants to be a help to his coaches. That was underlined for me, and I believe him when he says it. And the other part of this, too, with Dannen is just the fact that he's been in some of those closed-door meetings, man, and you got to be able to know or guess right what's around the corner. Right now it's NIL, but the future of college football, and it's to be a part of that 12 at the table or 14. And do you feel pretty good about his background and the ability to work with other big dogs or big wigs, or at least they think they're big dogs, in those committee sessions?
Yeah, well, and I think the fact that he served on the competition committee, I think that's helpful. A lot of guys and women that are in the kind of the power chairs right now. I mean, they started at places in the American Conference. I mean, he's got the background at Tulane. Well, a lot of the people that he had to work with in that conference are now sitting in athletic director chairs in the Big Ten or the SEC. And so they kind of, it's a small world, and I think the fact that he has those connections, I think it helps. I think, when you were kind of probably trying to profile what, Nebraska's next AD looked like, you would probably want somebody with significant administrative experience. You would probably want somebody that has experience at either the SEC or Big Ten level. And that's what Nebraska got. I mean, it was, maybe a little bit limited at Washington. But I mean, he hired a football coach. He was hiring a basketball coach. I mean, those are, big decisions you had to make in a short amount of time. So, I think, most people probably, didn't have, a list of 5 people that they would want Nebraska to pursue as an athletic director. But I think Troy Dannen checks a lot of the boxes that people would have wanted in that the person that was going to take that job. So I think all of his experience there and what he's done, I think it helps.
Michael, to flip this question around here, coming into today, what is your biggest concern with Troy Dannen becoming the AD at Nebraska? And were any of those concerns alleviated today with what Troy Dannen had to say to the media?
I mean, I don't think any of my concerns were necessarily like Troy Dannen related. I mean, I am probably like a lot of people where, this time last week, there probably weren't a lot of people that would have been able to pick out Troy Dannen in a lineup if you would have put 3 pictures in front of him. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of athletic administrators. But, I think my concerns are probably, would have been there, whether that it was him or somebody else that was hired, was how do you keep Nebraska at the adults table when it starts to become the time where you really start separating the haves and the have-nots. And I think you want somebody who, like Chris said, you can kind of see 3 or 4 years down the road of what's next in college athletics. Like it's not just NIL now. It's how are you going to have revenue sharing? What's that going to look like with athletes? Because it's coming. How does Nebraska fit into that? And how does Nebraska stay competitive in that changing landscape? And I think he's a forward-thinking person. I mean, he said, you're going to have a line item in Nebraska's budget for player compensation. And I think, Trev Alberts was really big on that. I think Troy Dannen is going to be well aware of that stuff. And, my concern is just how do you, as a university, make sure that you continue to be driving those conversations, not necessarily following behind or wondering if you're going to be a part of them.
Bruntzy, let's shift to spring football. Quarterbacks, the question and the focus. And, as we get into spring and we come out of spring, do you think there'll be some questions answered about quarterback being a help or an asset to the offense, be it Harburg's jump or what you got in the two freshmen?
Yeah, I mean, we'll know a lot more than we know now. I'll be eager as this kind of goes along to see how they handle the conversation about who's starting, because I think the timing of all of that is going to be really key for whether it's, hey, we're rolling with a veteran, we're going with a freshman, whatever that looks like. I think kind of the pacing of that and when you decide that question is going to be really key. I do think that, by the time everybody walks off the field on April 27th, you're going to have a pretty good idea of where that competition stands. It's going to be, a really important spring because, the freshmen need to be brought up to speed. They're going to have to get used to everything. Heinrich Harburg needs to take a step forward from where he was a year ago. Glenn Thomas is going to be under the microscope quite a bit with that group. Matt Rowe believes a lot in his ability to teach, and he's going to be tested, in these 15 spring practices. So, and as much as that question about the quarterbacks, I mean, I think offensively you need to have a good sense by the end of April that you've also gotten better around those guys, because that to me makes the quarterback conversation so much easier, as if you're able to lean a little bit more on the running backs. You've got wide receivers that can actually go out there and make contested catches and make big plays. I think that's going to be a big piece of it too.
Any potential former Omaha flavor when it comes to portal additions for Nebraska and Fred on the hoops side?
There's a lot of flavor out there on the buffet right now. We'll kind of see how that goes. I mean, Frankie Fiddler is obviously the big name. He's kind of doing the rounds in state this week. I know he was going to be at Wisconsin too, as well, for a quick visit. It's interesting. I mean, there's a few of those guys. Kyle, the former South Dakota State forward too. I mean, I think he could fit somewhere. But I'm eager to kind of see how Fred approaches this kind of go round on the transfer portal, because I think you've seen what works. I think you've also seen where Nebraska really needed to address some needs. I mean, that NCAA tournament game, I think, showed that there was a need for more athleticism. It was a bad matchup, but you got to get better on the perimeter in the portal. So, there's options. Even, I just think for what they need right now, maybe one of the two guys would help you, but you got to find some help in the post. You got to get more athletic on the outside too. Those are the two big kind of check items for me.
Bruntz, is there any positive with about our last 60 seconds here to at what point Nebraska bowed out at the NCAA tournament? Now they can turn full focus to the portal before 16 other teams out there are allowed to?
Yeah, it helps. I mean, you basically go straight from the tournament to, what's next. So there's no time to mourn the loss. It does kind of allow you to like you said, kind of go full bore into the portal. I'm sure they probably wouldn't mind playing a little bit longer if they were being honest with you. But this is a real key. A couple of weeks here. Nebraska had a great year this past year, but it's only, there's kind of limits to how great it was. But if you can kind of take that next step, get back to the tournament next season, I mean, I think that makes this past year even more important in kind of the big picture.
It's Michael Bruntz with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Find Bruntsy with Husker 24/7 at Michael Bruntz on Twitter. Read him, of course, with the great folks at Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, thanks for squeezing in time today after the pressers. Appreciate you as always. Good stuff.
Sounds good. Good talking to you guys.
All right, there he is. Bruntsy will be wearing his Oakland A's gear next time we chat with him as baseball's under, I said Oakland. Sorry, he's giving me a look. We'll continue on hour two.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? We're not pointing you yet.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you. Open phones open for you here till 6, 489-1240. Your impressions of Troy Dannen. What'd you think? And if you just caught part of it, we'll have more to fill in the blank for you with Dannen and his opening press conference as he got a chance to meet Husker Nation, got his family up on the podium, was really cool, then had some more one-on-one question time in front of the media, had a chance to see it, and I think he got a guy that's he's a communicator, he's a fullback, and I've said that since hour one, and I buy into him wanting to get all the roadblocks out of the way for his coaches and folks in the athletic department to go do things. And he's super confident in winning. And I like what Bruntz said. It's not turnkey, but he's right. Michael Bruntz with this last segment. This is the first time it's not a complete S show when you're walking in as AD. Now, from a president and an interim and that standpoint and the search and the butting of heads with the regents, yeah, I mean, it's not they're not going out for beers. All that said, though, your major programs are doing what they need to do, and it's not just volleyball that's carrying the water, but they're carrying the bigger bucket. Volleyball is.
Well, the teams are doing their job except for football, and football we feel like is on a good path.
Right.
But let's be clear. That's Troy Dannen's number one priority coming in.
Sure.
Yeah, we're all in agreement there that like the reason you hired Dannen is because Dannen's a football guy, and like, hey, everything else is in order, Troy. Take care of Matt Rule, take care of the football team, get that right, because one thing is certain in a world of uncertainty in the next 5 years in college athletics, one thing is a certainty: college football will still be king 5 years from now.
And it's going to be what prints your money and pays your bills in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and it's what keeps you, along with your academic prestige, again, as we've said, at the adult table. Don't give them any reason to go find your replacement in whatever a new or expanded Big Ten looks like if you're Nebraska. And when it comes to the SEC and the Big Ten, it is going to be that world. Let's hear from Troy Dannen here. We'll get into some spring football in about 10 minutes, maybe a little less than. Some questions as it's day 2 of spring football practice. But you can't let good people walk. And, as much anger, frustration, and just flat-out pissed offness you had with Trev, one of your own, bouncing. I know you've moved on. You got a guy that gets football, gets committees, gets to be heard in committee rooms, and people may like and want to do business with. And here's what's coming up, and how can you position Nebraska, if they do their job on the field, for success to be having a say. Can't let good people walk. You didn't with your basketball.
I've said this about Coach Rule. When Coach Rule was hired, I thought that is the greatest coach. I've known Matt for quite a while. That is the greatest coach at the right time, at the right place. He will win big here. Great job of recruitment. I just saw 2 coaches who went to the NCAA tournament, Amy and Fred, who are great coaches. And I've known Fred forever, and I followed Amy. I once thought I was going to hire her when she was at Rogers State. But we just retained them because you don't let good people get away. Same thing goes for student athletes. Recruitment and retention, that is our priority. And you will see that from me over and over and over again. When you invest in student athletes, the investment pays off in ways that we'll never understand, both for the whole, for the collective, but certainly for the student athletes. And you will hear me over and over again ask you to invest in our student athletes.
We have a question from Steven, checks in here on the stream. Can always check the show out that way. Stream as Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Can like and subscribe there. And where is football at a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Same question for the portal and NIL. I think in 3 years, you're going to have a college football czar. And it could be a former commissioner. It could be a athletic director that is going to be there overseeing it. I think there's going to be lobbying for congressional oversight, which freaks you out because Washington's screwed up. And they'll have a set of pecking order, call it a salary cap, call it a 53-man roster, all of those parameters to professionalized college football will be put in place. And while it isn't going to necessarily be the wild, wild west, you are going to have a governing body, probably led by Nick Saban, just my take, that, all right, this is the club you're in. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be $20 million, $25 million a year that you're going to need to spend on your student athletes across sports, with a big chunk of that going to football. And it's going to be a cap that's set, and you're going to have a 14-team playoff, just like you do with the NFC, just like you do with the AFC. TV folks are going to get involved. The Big Ten's loaded when they got Petiti, because the guy's done this in his sleep. He's a big-time TV dude. So you're going to have your top 4 teams play one another, AFC, NFC, and then you're going to have your air quotes Super Bowl to win the conference. And then your top 3 teams will get a automatic qualifying spot in this 14-team playoff. There'll probably be a push for more beyond 3 once you go to 14 to 4. And you see the revenue split. What is it? 39-40% go to the Big Ten and the SEC with this new ESPN deal. That's the setup here 3 years from now.
And another question, if you got that much money going to the Big Ten and the SEC, how much of that money goes directly to the players 5 years from now? Because that's the route we're going. I mean, NIL is what is here right now. That's
what your college football czar needs to figure out, and it's what drove the guy, Saban, out of college football, where he's got dudes walking in, not interested in creating opportunity for themselves. They're interested in getting paid because it's life-changing money for many of them, and you throw that in an IRA, your retirement's going to be nuts.
Well, I mean, I see this as, I'm not sure it's going to be 5 years from now, but I think that revenue sharing is going to act as something of a salary cap in college football.
Yes.
Once you can get all the powers of college football into 2 conferences, which is where I think we're probably going to be 5 years from now, if not 5, 10.
You're there now, but
I mean,
it'll be official.
It's going to be a case of, here, this is how much TV media rights deals goes to each school, and of that, these schools have this much money to give to their players. They can allocate the resources how they'd like, but they have this much money. You're not going to be dealing with donations from players. Obviously, players can make money off their name, image, and likeness still, but I think there's going to be money coming directly from the teams, acting as a salary cap of sorts to say, you know what, every single team that is in the Big Ten is going to have exactly this much money. It's going to be exactly, let's call it $15 million a year. They can allocate the resources how they'd like among their team. I think that's the point we're going to get to. It might even be more than $15 million if I'm being completely honest, but that is the point we're coming to, and I think Nebraska has an athletic director in charge that is very prepared for that. And you also have to ask the question, if there comes a point where the universities are directly paying the players, how are you going to use your money now while you're not doing that, when you have an extra $15 million?
I think there'll be a stipulation, too. You get your NIL when you graduate. I think that'll be the string attached. Right now, if you're Florida State and Clemson, you, with your ACC contract, make a whopping $35-40 million a year. Vanderbilt's pulling in $85 or $90 million.
See, I'm wondering if it's the other way around. I'm wondering if the players get their NIL while they're playing, and then at the end, hey, here's the money that you earned while you were in college. Here's a check for the revenue sharing, if you will. If money's coming directly from the athletic department.
Yeah. You going to have both?
I assume so.
I would imagine.
I mean, I assume local businesses are still going to want to use famous college athletes in their advertisements.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be a case of, hey, you're going to be a walk-on, here's $15,000.
And local businesses are going to pull their advertising if you
exactly.
come in and go 0-2 with 84 turnovers.
Well, there you go. I mean,
so that's thank you for the question, Stephen, and diving in, man, playing along at home, and that's what I see happening. How about Troy Dannen on NIL? Nebraska's got a collective, 1890. They have a war chest. And to be in this club, fellas, we're talking about 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the road, you can't suck on the field, but you also got to be able to be at that big, expensive buy-in at the poker table. And Nebraska is right now. They'll remain that way, and Nebraska fans will continue to donate and give as well, because that's the other thing Dannen hit on, was just the fan base and how proud. He mentioned Memphis. He mentioned Corvallis. The fans showing up in droves because they're proud. They love supporting not only a winner, but a team that plays, air quote, the right way, with grit, determination. He gets what Nebraska is to the Nebraska people. But here's Dannen on the NIL part.
Because the number one commitment to success is to the student athlete. And as I mentioned, in the day, that might have been providing a strength coach. In the day, that might have been a laptop. In the day, that might have been a coach who was going to prepare them for the next level. In the day. Today's day is there is a sharing of resources with the student athletes. And so if we're going to compete, if we're going to recruit and retain, everybody in this department has to support what lies ahead for student athletes to be a part of the economic model of this. Today, it's NIL. Tomorrow, it's going to be something different, and we will pivot and evolve into that. But so it would not, I would be missing if I tried to avoid the reality of what the name of the game is today. There are a lot of things. I joke when I went to Tulane, there's no such thing as a transfer portal. Nobody ever contemplated NIL. There was no such thing as a lot of what we're dealing with today. So I will be beside and embrace everybody in the collective and try to make sure our athletes and our coaches know the role of the collective in helping them do their job and helping build winning programs and helping the student athletes benefit from the revenue that's driven by this enterprise.
He gets it. That's where the money's at. Be friendly to it. Use it to your advantage, and build. And it's not going to be a thing of the past, fellas, or an issue. Can you outspend a USC, an Ohio State for that stud quarterback? Well, part of it too is going to be fit, and how you hit it off with your head football coach or your quarterback's coach. I mean, Nebraska's lined up to do well. You got the talent, you got your quarterback, you got your quarterbacks, you got your quarterback coach, you got your collective, you got your head coach, now you got your AD, and everyone's singing the same tune. More with Hail Varsity continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
We're going to keep chewing on that crystal ball 5 years into college football, and you heard Troy Dannen talk about NIL, and it's the word or the letters of the day, and you better ride that pony until it shifts to something new. A couple more thoughts here from Troy Dannen. Hail Varsity back with you on a Tuesday. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. Troy Dannen, the Rule teammates, how I've labeled this, and he talked about getting hired and his history with Rule. And again, he's all about trying to help the Big Red in any way, shape, or form. A good comment for sure from your new AD.
Well, you ask yourself the internal question, why not? And I don't know that. I do know, though, why. I do know the model of what it takes for success. Part of the attraction of this particular job at this particular time is to work with Matt. I've known him for a while. I respect him. Here's the thing about Coach Rule that I really admired at Temple. Nobody ever won the week after they played Temple. Nobody ever won. They were physical. They were tough. You knew it was going to be the most physical game of the year. And that's Big Ten football. I've seen him win at two different places where he came in and when I say built it from scratch, but I don't know if it was from scratch as much as turn it quickly. And when he was hired, I even said this to Trev, put that guy in this gold mine and great things are going to happen. And so, I don't know as much, or frankly, do I even care about maybe the why not? I care about the why now and what can happen. And part of it, Matt and I talked a little bit. We're going to be attached to the hip for a while because I need to know what he needs from me in this department in order to succeed. My job, I told this analogy at different places, nobody gets it, but I'm a Midwest snowplow. My job is to be out front, plowing things out of the way so they can run uninterrupted behind me. And when I say me, I mean the department. I represent 335 people who work in the department. So get obstacles out of the way so they can succeed. And it's Matt's job, and I've told him this already, it's his job to identify the obstacles, and we'll get them out of the way.
So Troy Dannen there on the attraction, it was a no-brainer for him to work with Rule. And he had just hired, I think, a really good coach in Fish at Washington away from Arizona. We've talked at IL. We've talked and heard from Dannen about Rule, the teammate. How about Troy Dannen and the Big Ten and SEC world?
Well, it's something I want to talk about.
Please.
That you just said. And this is just kind of a sentence I didn't think I'd ever hear in my life, and this is a testament to how Rule does things and how Dannen knows how Rule does things, is he said that the week after you play Temple, you were never going to win. When did you think Temple would be put in that sentence?
I mean, that was the thing
That's
you heard
insane.
about Nebraska circa 1994.
Right.
Well, and that was Nebraska. You may survive them, but they beat the hell out of you for the next 2 weeks. Nebraska'd either beat you twice or you'd split because of Nebraska.
In teams that have done that recently, I mean, Temple did that in the AAC, but I mean, recently it's been Michigan, it's been Alabama, it's been the teams that are constantly in the college football playoff that are the teams that tend to beat you twice. The teams that beat you and they leave you so black and blue that you can't even go out and feel the competitive team the next week.
You need a handful of gummies and a tub of ice.
Yeah. Maybe multiple tubs of ice. I don't know.
A couple Advil.
Yeah. Thank you,
Anything.
Elijah.
Anything.
I will take the purple haze and okay.
And a Toradol
shot. Give me both cheeks. I need the diesel today. How about the Big Ten SEC world?
I think the world is going to revolve around the Big Ten and the SEC. I think we saw it with the college football playoff revenue distribution model that came out. I'm really, really impressed with Commissioner Petiti. I've been around a lot of commissioners. I love his vision. I love his aggressiveness. You want to be at the place. I'll use the Thanksgiving analogy. I sat at the kids' table for a long time. I wanted to be at the grown-ups table, and not in a negative way, but the Big Ten is the table to sit at because that's where decisions will be made, that's where the future will be determined, and that's where fate will be set. And you want to be in those positions rather than wait for somebody else to determine those things for you. So, if I ever left Tulane, it was going to be because of the Big Ten or the SEC, because I want to be at those tables.
Troy, Aaron Sorensen counter-read. Kind of with that in mind, Nebraska's AAU status, the college football landscape, not just college football, college athletics landscape continues to change, and as the Big Ten becomes more powerful in the SEC, no one wants to lose their footing. So I'm curious about getting Nebraska back into the AAU and how that can then benefit what you're going to be able to do on the athletic side. Well,
first, if an athletic director could have influence in the AAU, that would be great. But I do know the metrics, and I understand the metrics from my time at Tulane, sitting at the president's cabinet, discussing AAU almost at every meeting. Obviously, Washington is an AAU, so I understand what it takes. I understand there's a commitment to getting back in the AAU. And I really appreciated that, because you know what? I want to be the best. I want to surround myself with the best. In a lot of ways, sometimes you're defined by who you dance with. And so the idea of the institution being, it is an elite research institution. It should be identified with the other elite research institutions. And I know that commitment's there, and to the role, to the extent that we can help, we're going to be as good in athletics as the university is as a whole. You know, we are not our own entity. Even in Nebraska, we are not our own entity. And we got to understand, we need to be collaborative, and we need to help each other in any way we can. And if there's a way that we can assist in the pursuit, we will. I do have a little bit of background and knowledge, and I don't know whether the president's ever going to call on me, but if he does, I'll be there.
So right now, Nebraska is the last kid picked. It's weird to say on the playground because they're not an AAU member, but you got to dance. As he touched on, Nebraska is not getting any phone calls for prom because they're not in the AAU.
Been there.
Hey, Sometimes you just got to hire a prom date.
Oh. What?
What?
What? Nothing.
You guys both have a reaction to that.
Hire a prom date?
Sure.
Doesn't sound legal. Going Craigslist? You mean go down to the corner?
No, I'm not going to any corner.
More like a bribe.
Yeah, I will buy dinner and buy your corsage.
Oh.
Bribe, yes. Not
much better choice of words there.
Your mind always goes to a negative spot with me when I bring up a comment.
Hi, this is my prom date, sugar.
It's even better in the bowling shirt.
And say hi to Cinnamon now because she's working at midnight.
She's got to get out of here. She's performing at post-prom.
Oh, my God.
You guys saw Varsity Blues, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know if Connor has.
I don't think I have.
Really?
No.
The English teacher? Her side hustle?
I'm going to sit this one out,
Yeah.
I think.
One of the best movies ever filmed in Chicago, Risky Business. You've seen that, I hope. Yeah. It's like, I got a poster of it. We'll wind down. Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Unfortunately, I opened the can of worms about getting creative with prom dates back in the day. Winding down to Tuesday, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity.
What's the best way to ask someone since you opened up this can of worms?
Well, I went to prom with my future wife.
So how'd you ask her? Or is that something I can't ask?
You know, I think it was just assumed we went. She just said, I got my dress. I'm like, well, your dress is beautiful. I think it was purple, like Barney purple. But no, there's a picture floating around that's not been burned yet of her and I at prom 1,000 years ago.
It was homecoming, so different than prom, but I dressed up like a wizard one time.
And you went by yourself.
No, she said yes. Magically, I don't know how. Magically. That was terrible.
What did she dress as?
Well, this was just for asking. When is the wizard?
Oh, okay. You
didn't go. That'd be weird.
Oh, okay. Weirder than saying, hey.
He came straight from the show choir right to the prom, and then he had no time to change.
How about you?
Well,
or do we strike out on prom dates?
Oh no, I didn't. But I'm simple, so I just asked, and then we went.
You wrote it. Will you go with me?
Well, to be fair, I only got
crayon.
I don't know how you guys did it, but we did junior and senior prom. I assume it's okay. Well, I only got one of those, so I didn't get to do the senior year one.
Oh, COVID, right?
Yeah,
screwed up everything.
Which would have been a lot easier because for that one I had a girlfriend at the time. The first one I did not. So that would have just kind of been the same like assumption type deal.
I went with an older gal to prom my junior year.
How much older were you?
You guys are both blinking.
I just wanted to.
Do I ask? She was a senior.
Okay, her name was not Cinnamon. She was not 32.
I wanted to just let that sit in silence for like a second or two. Good radio.
I was waiting for me to say much older.
It was my buddy's mom. Kidding. We're not friends anymore. Okay, let's moving on. Let's hear from the athletic director one last time, shall we? Can we? Let's put an exclamation point on this. And he talked a little bit about being able to get his voice heard in those crowded rooms and being on the committees, being a part of the inner workings, the political landscape of
We're
college
be cutting
football.
It close here too, by the way.
I will be quiet so we can hear him.
In those rooms, they are frightfully provincial. Those who fight successfully fight on behalf of the whole, not on behalf of their own. It's incumbent upon me in those rooms to understand where our own fit in the whole. And how do we fight for our own by fighting for the whole? And I think I have a pretty good idea. But those who stand up and it's me, my, our, versus we, us, they don't get as far, and they don't get people to listen to them. So there's a collaborative piece to this But I will also tell you this, I can't wait for the day to stand up and call the supervisor officials and complain about a call, because I do it all the time. And you have to advocate and defend when your students are put in a
We got 10 seconds. We're going to go way over.
Okay, that's fine. No, we'll talk to you tomorrow at 4. Thanks for tuning in to Hail Varsity, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Download the pod. Thanks for tuning in.